Hello and welcome to Neuroshambles, the podcast that aims to shine a light into some of the murkier corners of what it's like to parent neurodivergent kids. I'm Mark Allen, and every episode I'm going to be swapping stories with my guests about some of the frankly ludicrous nonsense we have to deal with on a daily basis. So, if you're anything like me and you're feeling frazzled, overwhelmed and pretty much an outcast from polite society, join me. Hello and welcome to episode 43 of Neuroshambles. This is the first episode of season 3 and I am absolutely delighted that you are joining me once more. Firstly, I'll start off by saying I hope you managed to survive the summer holidays, and for any of you with neurodivergent school attenders, your return to school was within a tolerable range of turbulence. I think that's the best we can hope for. I'd also like to say apologies for leaving you in the lurch over the summer. I had planned to do some more stuff on the socials, and I was going to release episode 1 a little bit earlier in September, but I'll be honest, it was only when I paused for breath that I realised how much I needed a complete break to reset my frazzled brain. Now that's achieved, I am raring to go with season 3 of Neuroshambles. I've got some great topics planned and a whole bunch of guests already lined up. Some new, some returning, but every single one of them excellent humans. So, let's put my money where my mouth is and get started.
Meet the guest.
So I thought I'd start season 3 with a bang by bringing back a Neuroshambles favourite, as well as being a late diagnosed neurodivergent parent to a now fully grown neurodivergent human. She's also a best-selling author, a public speaker, and a fierce advocate for families navigating the unholy nightmare of EHCPs and the SEND tribunal system. She is an absolute bloody tour de force, so I am delighted to welcome her back. It's Heidi Mavir. How you doing, Heidi?
Jesus, that's something to live up to, isn't it? God.
Yeah, don't fuck it up now.
No pressure.
What did I say there that's not correct?
That's tour de force. Like,
yeah, I think I think you should own it.
But crikey.
Welcome back. Anyway, how are you doing, Heidi?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I'm good. It's nice to be back.
Good.
I enjoy these conversations, as you know. I'd do it even if we weren't recording it, but then that would maybe be a bit weird if you and me just got together to ramble.
Not at all. So for those of you who might not have heard a previous episode with you, let's just remind them of your neurodivergent setup.
So my setup is my son Theo, who is going to be 21 in October, crashed out of school when he was 15, and kind of what that started the ball rolling. I say rolling, like hurtling towards a realization that he was autistic and ADHD, and so am I. So that was like 6 years ago, and since that point we have done like a complete 180 just in about every single aspect of our lives. So we do everything totally differently to how we did it before, because we've learned that as a neurodivergent household, that's the way things have to roll for us. And I guess the thing that people might know me for is that I wrote a book called Your Child Is Not Broken about our experience of Theo not being able to go to school anymore and the fuckery that came with that.
Yeah, which is one of the first books I read that I was like, oh my God, this is my life. Like, you know, so I loved it. And that's why I got you on in the first season.
Yeah.
So, yes, if you haven't read that book, it's awesome. And I'll put a link in the show notes.
And now we're like a few years down the road. Theo is recovered from the burnout he was in. I'm recovered from the burnout that followed his burnout. And we're kind of, I guess, I was going to say bobbling along, but we're not really bobbling along. We're kind of smashing it, if I'm honest. I'm fairly proud of it.
Nice. Lovely to hear. It is, you know, this is something that I think is useful for people to know on the back of this. Because I do feel a little bit like I wouldn't go so far as smashing it, but I feel like we've reached a kind of a plateau where we're kind of all a bit more comfortable, and a lot of people listening to Neuroshambles are deep in this sort of the turmoil of like, don't know what's going on and what strategy should I use, and fighting and advocating and all of that side of things. And you know, I think it's useful to know sometimes that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and you can reach that sort of level of peace almost. I know it's not peaceful in my house ever, but that sort of that acceptance of where you are and who you are.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important thing for
Yeah.
people to bear in mind, that it's not always going to be a shit
And there
show.
might be, and there almost certainly will be, other tunnels. But right now, we're enjoying the scenery of not being in a tunnel.
Yeah.
So,
we've just both jinxed it now.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, we haven't grown out of all our autism. That's not a thing. But we seem to have found our flow a little bit more. And he's now at university, which is probably a big part of how we're managing, because we're no longer living together 12 months of the year. But he's just been home for 4 months for the summer, which has been lovely. And he's going back next weekend. So we're now quite both anxious about next weekend. But we've kind of found our flow a little bit, and we have the vocabulary for things. We have an understanding of what's going on. We have a lot more compassion for ourselves and for each other. And that makes a difference. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I think, as our kids get older and they understand how to advocate for themselves and to go, this is what I need, and you are then able to give that. It's really tricky when you're in the earlier years, when they don't know what's going on and you don't know what's going on, and you want to help and you can't. And
especially when they're teens, like teenagers are like just little balls of anxiety anyway, aren't they?
I've got this to come.
Oh my God, Mark, strap in, because it's
Jay is 12 at the moment. And
like that. Yeah, I mean, like, as far as hormonal messes go, I'm dealing with that right now. He's kind of through that bit, but
it's his turn to deal with you now.
He's like, you're a bit hormonal today, aren't you? And I can't say it. I'm like, yeah, I am. I really am.
Well, thank you for introducing us to your setup. We've got lots to deal with in this particular episode, so let's crack on with it.
What's the topic of the week?
Before we launch into this week's topic of the week, I probably should just do a disclaimer that it is highly likely to involve swearing, predominantly because the topic of the week is about swearing. So you can't be a surprise to you if there's going to be some swear words. There may be some F's and some S's, a couple of B's, and maybe even a C if Heidi's feeling particularly fruity. So just be aware of that. But as I said in my first episode, I can't imagine many parents of neurodivergent children are that appalled by swearing, because there's a lot of other shit we have to deal with on a daily basis. But if you are, then this probably isn't the episode for you.
Get the fuck out now.
Just try one of the gentler ones. So this week's topic of the week is all about swearing. It is something that I touched on very briefly in the episode I did about social etiquette that I did with Joe Matthews back in episode 9. If you haven't heard that one yet, it's a really fun one, so give that one a listen. But when Heidi and I were discussing potential topics to talk about for this episode, she suggested the topic of swearing, and it immediately got my brain whirring, because I feel like it's a particularly nuanced one, particularly when it comes to neurodivergent kids. So I think I should also start by saying that swearing is not just a neurodivergent phenomenon. Obviously, neurotypical kids and adults up and down the country are swearing like troopers. But there is a subtle difference, I think, and that's what I want to try and unpick here, is what the potential motivators for swearing is and how you potentially handle that if you feel uncomfortable with it and that side of things. I think that neurodivergent kids on the whole, and there are exceptions that I will discuss later, I think, is it fair to say that they swear a bit more prolifically and a bit more directly than their neurotypical counterparts?
I think in my experience, and it is only my personal experience, when you've got a neurodivergent kid who has the lid off swearing, the lid's not going back on again.
Okay.
I think that would be safe to say. And I have some, like, we'll get onto this, I probably think, but I think that swearing often comes as part of unmasking as well. So,
okay.
But yeah, I think, I mean, I don't know. You said that to me before, and I was like, well, I don't know any neurotypical people, Mark.
No, I don't either. This is the thing. Right. Yes, it is true. And I know
the lesser spotted neurotypical, we just don't see many of them in the wild. So who knows what their experience is. But
yeah, and I mean, I'm sure, I, as a as an alleged neurotypical, when I was laughing, when I was growing up, like swearing, I didn't swear in front of my parents.
Yeah.
Like, and I still, at the age of 48, have never sworn in front of my parents.
Yeah.
So there's definitely an element of being able to restrain myself and having the capacity to rein it in specific circumstances that I think might be more problematic for neurodivergent children, or that they actually don't give a shit about reining it in, because why should they? Which is the other thing that we'll get onto. But before we delve into that, I think it's useful just to have a look at swearing and why it is considered offensive in the first place. Right? Because, swear words do undoubtedly have a huge impact on people that you're talking to. To positive and negative. Like, they can make people laugh, they can make people cry, they have the power to motivate and demoralize, they can create tension in some situations, and my favorite is relieving tension through swearing. When everyone's like really tense and you go, fucking hell, that was a bit much. And then everyone goes, whew, okay, we could just let it all out. But technically, on paper, they're just words. So the power of swearing is really imbued by how it's received. And that's a strange phenomenon. So who is it that decides what words are offensive and what words aren't?
So it's interesting because I'm writing my second book currently, Tricky Second Album. I probably said that last time we met as well. I'm still freaking writing it. One of the chapters is about swearing. So I've been doing quite a lot of research and reading and, all that kind of like sociology stuff. I will say at this point that I'll tell you that, there's this research that says, I won't tell you who wrote it. I can't remember. It's written down somewhere. When the book comes out, it'll be in that. But just put a word
that is fantastic. Buy the book.
Buy the
if
book,
you want to know.
If I ever finish the damn thing. But anyway, the interesting thing about swearing is that so the two things that are kind of like what defines whether something is a swear word or not is it taboo? So it's usually tied to a taboo subject. So sex and bodily functions now are what are taboo, right? But historically, religion was taboo. So go back, like 100 years, and blaspheming was very much like that's where curses came from. That's where
Right. So damn, some people still don't say damn.
That's all that religious swearing. That was more taboo. But now I think we're in a time of where most offensive swear words are related to sex or bodily functions or both.
You've got my brain's whirring now, just running through all the swears.
So if you think about the things that
bodily, sexual, both bodily and sexual.
All of those, right? There you go. There's your first C word.
Thanks.
But it's decided by society and what's taboo. So it's evolving all the time. Things that didn't used to be as offensive are more offensive. And there's also a thing about different environments and different social setups. So there are words that are much more offensive in the US than they are here, and vice versa.
Yes.
And there are words that we use here so like wanker, we would use here. Someone in the US wouldn't know what a wanker was. Ironically,
no.
And there are other words that have like sexual overtones here, like fanny here, right?
Yes, but it's just a
in the
bum
US,
in America.
it's your backside, and it's not rude,
yeah.
right? So I've got an American stepmom, and one of the very first times I met her, she said I was wearing a short dress, and she said to me, "Are you going to wear that because I can see your fanny?" And I was like,
and you're checking yourself frantically, going, "Oh my God."
So, but what defines something as a swear is very much tied to societal taboo. So
okay, and so is that, it sounds like the intent is really important there, because the reason that you're saying it is because it's taboo. Then you're trying to inflame a situation, or by saying a word that is outside of socially accepted speech.
Or you're exclaiming because you're having an emotion. And so there's two types of swearing, right? There's swearing that is swearing because something goes badly and it's an expletive. So you drop something on your foot and you say, "Oh shit," without even thinking about it. Or there's swearing because you're intending to add power to something. So you'll say,
Yes.
what a load of shit. Do you know what I mean? So like it's, and they're two different types of swearing. And actually what's really interesting is in conversations that I've had with people, people have said to me, I don't mind if my child swears in a moment of exasperation, but I don't want them to swear at people. So they don't mind if their child says, oh shit, if they drop something, but they don't want someone to say, you're a shithead. Do you know what I mean? So,
yes, yeah. That's a distinction that Joe Matthews made a while ago, and I've really sort of like really latched onto that and gone, okay, how do I feel about this particular sentence that Jay has said? Yeah, it's reading the intent behind it and letting shit slide.
It's really interesting.
It is, and so that sort of brings me on to swear words coming from the mouths of children. Has that extra level of almost shock sometimes. If you are offended by swearing, I think you are doubly offended by swearing from children.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that is where it's quite difficult to explain that to neurodivergent children. And the context of it, as you say, is so important, because there are times where swearing is okay. You know, like, but you have to be absolutely sure of that, right? So there are certain situations where, you know, like I swear on this podcast. If you've listened to it for more than 4 minutes, it's quite a sweary thing. And I am aware that sometimes I swear a bit too much on it. And I apologize if you are sort of a little bit, if you don't like it. But my take is, this is my space, right? I'm inviting you into my brain, and you're inviting you into my conversations. It's like a pub chat, right? Without the alcohol. And because it's my space and I'm inviting you into it, then it's sort of up to me how I present that. And if I swear,
my house, my rules, right?
Yeah. And I think people accept that and people understand that. And to be honest, I think that's probably why some people listen to it. However, if I'm in a different context, if I'm in someone's house and I don't really know them that well, I know that I don't swear, because it might be offensive and it's their environment that I'm in. So I need to be able to temper that.
Do you also, though, when you meet someone who you haven't met before, when you're spending time with someone you don't know very well, when they drop their first F-bomb, do you think, oh, thank God? Because I do. I'm like, oh, I can just relax a little
one
bit.
of us.
I it's, for me in that situation, it's a bit of a leveler. It's a social lube. Do you know what I mean? It's like
it's just a little sign that people aren't uptight about things that I don't think are important. I think is but
it's interesting you're saying about context, because although, I joke about it and I say, I'm a proper potty-mouth, and I am. But obviously, when you're raising a child, and when your child's grandparent on his dad's side is a very wonderfully but traditionally Methodist Yorkshire woman, you don't want your child swearing around her ever. So we had like conversations from when he was quite young about like where you could say things. So we had a scale for swearing. So we had Nana swears, which were things you could say in front of his nan, right?
Oh, like PG swears?
Right. I think he couldn't say fart. He could say Trump. He definitely couldn't use any religious swears. God, Jesus, God damn it, any of that.
You've got nowhere to go, really. If you drop something on your foot, you've just got to run outside. Sugar is not a swear, as we all know.
And Theo's nan, I think, used to say something like, oh, sugar gumdrops or something for big swears. Yeah, I can't remember.
Steady on, nan.
But so then we had swears for his nan's house, right? Then we had swears for like polite company. So maybe a damn would be all right. Maybe a Trump would be all right, or a fart would be all right, i.e. saying the word. Then we had swears for like my company. So like my friends, it was all right if you said damn, shit, piss, crap. And then in my house, he can say fucking cunt as much as he likes. You know what I mean? So
right, gloves are off. You know, you do you.
But he's good at that. Yeah. He's got this kind of like, I don't know, he has this kind of like.
So has he always had that? From what age? Because I find, I would think if I introduce this concept to my kids, I don't think depending on who they are. Like, I think Jay probably would now, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later. I don't think Otto would. He wouldn't really know what is appropriate and when, and so he'd be, I don't want to open that door.
So I didn't don't get me wrong, I don't F and Jeff around him when he was little. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't dropping F-bombs left, right and centre when he was 5 or 6 years old, but he probably heard the occasional one when I smashed a glass or whatever. But I do remember a conversation with him coming home from his nan's and saying, Nan says I can't say fart. And he would have been about 5 or 6. And then we had a conversation when I said, well, no, don't say fart in Nan's house. Say Trump. But you can say fart in this house. And then, of course, Theo was like, what else can I say in this house?
Sit down.
Let's make a list. Do you know what I mean? So, but he, and he's the one, when we're out in public, he pulls me up on it. Mom, there's kids over there.
So it's stuck then.
He gets it. And don't get me wrong, I can do polite stuff. I can do, I've even done podcasts when I haven't sworn. Do you know what I mean? Like,
okay. Yeah.
I am capable. And I guess also for him, from him being 14 to being 16 and a half, he was at home with me a lot of the time. He missed 2 years of education because he was so unwell.
Right, okay.
And we were in crisis. So it was like, gloves are off. I'm going to have to be able to say what I need to say when I need to say it, and strap in, your mum's a potty-mouth. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
that was a little bit different because I could kind of say what I wanted in a way, and he wasn't going to repeat it anywhere because God love him, he wasn't leaving the house. So
yes.
Every cloud,
But it's interesting that you've sort of implemented those strategies, have like made it clear, because that, obviously my concern as a parent is that my kids will not know the right context and they will end up, offending someone or being judged unfairly for something that they say that they don't understand is out of context.
Yes.
And it's a funny one for me because I am at that place now where if people judge my kids based on how they behave in public, if they're too fizzy, if they're too loud, I don't give a shit. They're my kids and they're doing their thing, and I will make apologies for them if they are particularly disruptive, but I'm not going to stop them doing it.
Same.
Unless it goes it goes completely over the top. But broadly, they've got a very long leash on that front. With swearing, for some reason, I feel a bit differently about it.
Interesting.
And it's a me thing. I'm aware of that, and I think probably it is how I was raised, because there was no swearing in front of me, so it was always deemed to be an unacceptable thing. That might be why I swear so much now.
Same. I was raised in a house where you didn't swear. My swearing self is my unmasked self. It's the place where I'm not thinking about too much what I'm saying, and I'm letting that stream of consciousness happen, and I'm not kind of like tone policing myself. So people get the purest version of me when I'm allowed to swear.
So people will know if you're swearing that you're unmasked and you're relaxed and you're comfortable.
Yeah, or I don't give a shit what they think. Either or.
If I think about it, I don't think that my main concern is for people getting offended by my children's swearing. I think it's because I don't want them to be judged unfairly.
Yes.
Because that kind of person will then just write your child off as a sweary hooligan, right? So I had this situation recently where I had to talk to Otto about this, right? Of all of my children, the one that you would least expect to swear is Otto. And I was upstairs working and I heard him in the garden on the trampoline. And he just started swearing like a docker. It was just like the F-bomb repeatedly. He was going, I'm fucking drunk. He was just like, he was in some kind of role playing thing. So he's ramping up. He's 10 now. And he was shouting at the top of his voice. Now, if I can hear it from my office, our back garden backs onto loads of other back gardens. They're all kind of adjoined. Everyone else can hear it. So I'm just like, I'm just going to have to nip this in the bud. So I went downstairs and I did get cross with him because, he wasn't swearing at people. I think that's the thing, right? He
Yeah.
was just swearing because it was creating a response. But I just said, I could hear you swearing from upstairs, and his face just fell. He
Oh,
was
bless him.
mortified. And I didn't get cross with him because I wasn't, because there's two sort of sides to that, isn't there? Like, if you get angry and you prohibit it, it becomes more appealing.
Yeah.
And it becomes more taboo.
Yeah.
So you don't want him leaning into that. So I just went, look, let's just go inside and talk about it. And he went inside like he was being marched to the gallows.
Poor little
He was so, bless him. But I didn't shout. I wasn't cross, but I didn't want to have the conversation in earshot of everyone else. I explained why I didn't want him swearing in the back garden. And that was because, like I just said, I don't want people listening to that and judging him and not seeing him for who he is. Like the smart, energetic, funny, sporty child, just this sweary little monster. And like I said, you know, so you need to understand when it's okay to swear and when it's not. And so if you're out in public, I don't want people judging you for that. But there are probably other situations. But it's confusing because even as an adult, I don't really know. So best to not really do it until you're a bit older and you kind of understand when it's okay and when it's not. And he was all right. And then we were reading a book and I went, do you know what though, Otto? You can read a chapter of this book and I will let you insert one swear word whenever you want and whatever you want, and it's going to be okay.
Nice.
And he leaned into it. It was like he got a bit nervous, not because he didn't know when to do it, but then he really leaned into it. It was hilarious. It was really funny.
So the reason that I was kind of like that I started thinking about swearing was because when my first book came out, I don't know if I mentioned I wrote a book, when I got negative comments or negative reviews, right?
Yeah.
99.9% of them were people didn't like that it was sweary, right?
Yeah, and that's so frustrating, isn't it? It's like you're not paying attention to the bit that matters.
This is a book about a young person who was in so much crisis that we nearly lost him, and the thing that bothers you is that I said the F word, right?
Yeah.
And like, come on. Like reviews that I got, a review said good writers should be able to express themselves without the use of foul language. And then someone else that they were hit by severe swearing on almost every page. And then someone else said
hit by it. Accosted. I was accosted by rudeness.
Nobody's impressed by swearing. It doesn't make you cool at 47, right? People were really not happy about it. So I went and had a look, right? My book, that book was 20,000 words, right? There were 18 fucks, 15 shits, 1 cunt, right? So less than 34 swear words in 20,000 words. Like 0.17% of the word count, right? Definitely not, absolutely definitely not every fucking page. But what I found out when I was doing this research is that people who do not like swearing, it's not just a preference, right? So when you swear, it activates the amygdala in people's brains, which is the internal fire alarm for our systems. And for whatever reason that people have an emotional, like they feel like they're under threat when someone uses a swear word, that is completely like not something you choose, right? So it could be down to the way you were raised, it could be down to your belief system, it could be any number of things. But people who don't like swearing, it's not just a preference, it's a trauma trigger, or it's a feeling threatened trigger, or it's a feeling unsafe trigger. So although we make a joke about it, say, oh, these people, you know, what we have to understand is that some people do feel genuine discomfort, fear, distress.
Yeah, as you said, they're triggered. They are literally triggered by it, right? Just in the way that our neurodivergent kids are triggered by
I had never considered before, right? I just thought these uptight motherfuckers, what the hell is the matter with them? Do you know what I mean? Like, and then when I read that, I was like, oh, okay. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm still gonna, you know, but it gave me a different level of understanding. And I've spoken to people whose neurodivergent kids, and some neurodivergent adults, but more neurodivergent kids who cannot stand swearing.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that that it's not all neurodivergent kids are cool with that.
No.
And in my own family, right, India is very much of the not swearing. Like, it's because it's a rule, right?
Yeah.
I think, and I don't think it's one that we've ever explicitly said there will be no swearing.
Someone will have said it though.
Yeah, maybe. Or I might have. No, I don't. I genuinely can't think of a time that I will have said that. But
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 someone in
that's a
authority
rule.
might have said that to her.
Yes, yes. So then this is a rule that she feels the need to police. So if I very pointedly don't swear in front of India. Tam has on occasion, and every single time India pulls her up on it. Don't swear.
Yeah.
We had a wonderful moment last year where me and Tam were talking about Eliza Fricker's book, which Can't Not Won't, which is brilliant. And I was like, I've just read this book by Eliza Fricker, Can't Not Won't, and I really like Eliza Fricker, and I want to get onto Neuroshambles, so I've emailed Eliza Fricker, and India was just like, can you stop swearing? And I was like, what on earth are you talking about? I was like, no, Fricker. I said Fricker. And India thought that I was obviously saying the F-bomb, so I had to clarify it for her.
Oh, bless her.
Bless her.
But it can be really like distressing for people.
Yeah, she snapped. It was just like too much.
And I think we have to acknowledge that if we're okay with those of us at this end of the scale being sweary potty mouths, we have to be okay with people at the other end of the scale not liking it at all.
So we kind of understand why swearing is offensive and why people get offended by swearing. But one thing that I really wanted to look at, because I think it relates specifically to neurodivergent kids, is why do our kids swear? What are the reasons for them swearing? Because it's not typically to show off, as you might get for neurotypical kids among their mates. It's much more purposeful, I think. One of the factors, I think, is that it's not really seen as wrong or offensive to a lot of neurodivergent kids, particularly if they're older, because they don't find it offensive. So why should other people? I mean, I don't know how that sort of applied to Theo when he was.
I don't think he is offended by swearing. I think he'll be offended if someone swore at him, if someone used abusive language towards him, and there'd be particular things that would be particularly offensive to him, for sure. But I don't think that he is bothered. I mean, God, he'd be in big trouble if he was. Do you know what I mean? Like, as in, if he lived with me and swearing bothered him. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
he cares more if people are unkind or if something's not fair. Or do you know what I mean? They're the things that bother him. It's, you know?
Yeah, there's the type of swear though, because if he's called a wanker, then that's offensive. Whereas if someone swore around,
then even
him,
the things that
right?
As he was growing up, the things that hurt him when people called him particular names, it would hurt him when people called him weird.
Yeah.
So that's not a swear word, right?
No, not at all.
But as a neurodivergent kid, being called weird, I think, is really tricky. Like, really difficult to hear, really difficult to see yourself in that way and to be okay with other people seeing you that way.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. So do you think he would ever call anyone else weird?
Well, now, like, we've had conversations about it. We think weird is a great thing.
Okay, yeah, you got to own it, right?
People say, oh, they're a bit weird and not in a good way. Do you know what I mean?
No, because Otto said this the other day, like, our family's really weird. And I was like, but that's a good thing, right? And he was like, yeah, we're not like quiet and do reading, is what he said. It's like, I mean, we do reading, but I get what you're saying. We are disruptive.
We've definitely reclaimed weird.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and also, I think the thing is with Theo, like, we had a period when he, and still sometimes now, he experiences situational mutism, right? So when he's very overwhelmed, he can't speak. Or when we go to the doctors, I have to start him off and then he can tell them what's going on. I'm like, let him just communicate as he needs to communicate. Do you know what I mean? Let's not police our neurodivergent kids in the way that they communicate and how they express themselves. I'm just happy, inverted commas, that he can communicate. And I don't necessarily mean that through spoken word, but that's, communication is valid however our neurodivergent kids do it. And so I would far rather that he can express himself freely than feel like that he's got like shackles on and he can't speak, But he isn't offended by swearing. He's offended by racism and homophobia and transphobia and Trump and Nigel Farage. I mean,
all of those are completely valid. Yes.
the stuff that
Yeah.
matters, But he has got a friend who does not like swearing. And he's very good. He just doesn't swear around them. And he'll say,
So he can rein it in, and this is the thing. Like, as I was sort of saying with my kids, my concern is that they wouldn't be able to rein it in and then end up like breaking in friendship. I'm starting to realise as we go through this episode that I have a problem.
you have a problem with
Like
swearing.
a lot of this is projection. Like, my kids don't swear a great
Around
deal.
you.
So India, yeah, it's true. India, as we know, doesn't swear. To the point that when I had the conversation with Otto about his trampoline swears, I talked to her about it. I said, does he swear very often? And she burst into tears. And she was like, went really, really dysregulated and really frustrated and started crying. And I was like, what's wrong? And she was like, because I know that you're going to ask Otto the same question and he's going to say that I do, but I really don't. And so she got really worked up because it was, she really absolutely didn't want to be seen as a swearer. Yeah. So obviously I asked Otto.
Yeah.
Because I needed to know. He's like, no, she's never sworn. So just the fear of Otto lying about her swearing and me believing her was so sort of ingrained in her. And again, it's this really kind of defined version of what is right and wrong and wanting to be on the side of right for that particular thing. This concept of adhering to the rules was really important to her, to the point that she was really worked up at the prospect of being lied about.
Yeah. You don't have a PDA in your house, do you?
I got two of them.
Right.
India is PDA.
Right.
And Jay is PDA.
Can be incredible swear boxes.
Well, that is This okay. So India is an interesting one here then, because India is definitely PDA,
right?
But isn't a swearer,
right?
Jay is the swearer, so he's the PDA kid who swears, and sort of looking back at why our kids swear, PDA in particular, I think the swearing is equalising behaviour.
I agree.
If Neuroshambles listeners haven't kind of heard the concept of equalising behaviour, it's a really interesting one, and I think it particularly pertains to PDA, maybe not exclusively to PDA.
We should say PDA is pathological demand avoidance for people who don't know what it is. Well.
Oh yeah, thank you for that. Yes, pathological demand avoidance, or persistent drive for autonomy, pervasive desire for autonomy, just basically being triggered by demands, and it triggers their nervous system, and it results in very often explosive behavior or implosive behavior in some circumstances. And with Jay in particular, it's explosive. And if they feel like they're out of control or they've lost control, they will need to do something to redress the balance, to put them back in control. And that is very often, or can be, swearing.
Yeah.
Not also, always with Jay.
I think because Theo's a PDA. So also I think the thing is with PDAs is like, like you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person, you've met one PDA, you've met one PDA. Freaking love PDA kids. They are like, they're just so beautifully unfiltered and gloriously full of rage and joy. And like, I don't want our kids to be full of rage, but also I just love that kind of like, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. Like, that is the theme tune of PDA, is that?
Yes.
Yeah. But I also, I think it's really important to recognise in any demand avoidant person, whether they have the PDA, traits or not, in any demand avoidance situation where it's just an extension of an anxiety, I hear people saying, they're trying to regain control. And whilst that is true, it's also not intentional and it's not a logical process. So it's a response to a stimulus, right? Mm-hmm. It's not kind of, what's the word? It's not manipulative. It's not.
It's instinctive. Yeah, it's not premeditated. Yeah. It's just like,
in the same way that many PDA young people have a massive problem with authority and really find it difficult, that whole, but why? And because, they're older than you, or because they're the boss, or because that's what the government say. None of that makes sense because hierarchy is bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So in terms of equalising behaviours, because there are, equalising behaviour for a PDA could be physical, could be violent, could be, like trashing a room or, tipping the game board over or swearing. Of all of those, I feel like swearing is the most acceptable. It's the it's the easiest one to be able to go, okay, I get you're communicating something to me at this point, and I get what that is, and this, I understand what this behavior is and what this language is, and I'm not going to get offended by it because I understand it, right?
And for some, and yeah, exactly, and also like that letting off steam, that that regulating activity. Like we know from research that swearing is a regulating activity. Where people, that old thing about putting your hand in cold water, people put their hand in cold water and swear while they're doing it. They can keep their hand in cold water for longer.
Is that actually is that true?
Actually, proper research.
Oh wow, okay.
Because it does something in your brain that reduces your pain reception. So it's a means of coping with pain, whether that's physical or emotional pain.
Yeah.
So, I've got friends who've got PDA kids, and like their PDA kids can say some horrific things.
Yes. Yeah.
That's preferable to them not being able to have an outlet for that, or preferable to other ways that they might, attempt to be regaining control. And, at the end of the day, it's words. And like as a parent, it can be hard to be on the receiving end of that, particularly if you are actually the person receiving, if it's abusive language,
Yes.
I think that can be really tricky as a parent if you've got a child whose profile includes them telling you that they hate you and you're a fucking cunt. And, that's really tricky.
Yeah.
And, if we are going to be neurodivergent affirming, we have to be coming to that with generous assumptions and being trauma informed and understanding that that is a means of regulating. So,
yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is worth just leaning into that point about how hard it is when they are swearing at you or abusive to you. And this is something that I'm definitely going to cover in another episode about, aggression towards parents, because it's an unspoken thing, I think, a lot of the time. And I think it's, it's something
not
that I
to
want
play
to
that
cover.
down at all, because
no.
If you're in a house with a child or a young person who is abusive, regardless of why that is happening, it's an incredibly difficult place to be. It's a very lonely place to be. There's loads of taboo around it, and it can be a very dangerous place to be.
Yes.
Yeah. And if it's only, inverted commas, words, I think there's conversations to have around that, right? Like it's about us as parents and how we manage that for ourselves as much as for our young people. But yeah, it's incredibly tricky, incredibly difficult. And I don't want to play that down.
So being sworn at by kids is always hard. And again, it's the context. Is it just the swear words? But there was once where Jay came. This is where he was in school last year. He's just starting his new school. And he'd been in Burnout, and we were sort of easing him in. Now, his new school is a specialist autistic setting. They are wonderful. We fought really, really hard to get him in there. It's incredibly high demand, and it is perfect for him. So we got him in. It was like, great. And he started sort of tentatively going into school for sort of half days and stuff. And then he like rung the doorbell when he came back. He was coming back for that half day. And I opened the door, and before I could say anything, he went, "Fuck you for sending me to this fucking shithole."
Oh, God.
And that was like the sweariest thing he'd ever said. Like he'd never sworn at me. He'd never said "fuck you" before. And that was quite hard to hear because, well, for many reasons. Firstly, there's that shock of like him saying "fuck you." Secondly, this fucking shithole is like, this is the best possible place for you other than not school. I get that, right? But at the moment, and we fought so hard, so it was that sort of rejection of everything we'd fought for, and I was on a work call as well, so that was like just dealing with that. I was like, oh, okay. And that was really hard. And also just sort of thinking about I would never have said that to my, like, I can't imagine what would have happened if I'd have said something like that to my dad. Like, I wouldn't be here recording this
Yeah. I
podcast,
remember once saying
basically.
fuck off under my breath to my dad.
Did you hear it?
Yeah, and I got a beating.
Yeah, I mean, so different times, right? But we're not those people. I'm not saying my dad would have beat me, by the way, but I would have been in trouble.
Yeah.
But we understand more where it comes from. So obviously that was hurtful for me, but also for me, that was communication.
Mm-hmm.
He was telling me something important. He was telling me, to be honest, that he wasn't ready yet. He wasn't ready to be going back in yet,
Yeah.
and he was finding it difficult. And so obviously I didn't react. I wasn't, I wasn't angry. I didn't kick off. I didn't tell him that made me feel bad or anything like that. I just said, I can tell you've had a really tough day. Why don't you go upstairs and chill out and we can talk about it in a little bit. And that's hard. That's hard. I wouldn't let anyone else in the world speak to me like that.
Yeah.
But we, as parents of neurodivergent kids, we have to understand it, and you have to swallow it down and
even
let him express
even
it.
as they get older, right? So like now my relationship with Theo as morphing into a grown-up relationship. We're both adults,
Yes, okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Even now, there are things that he would say to me or I would say to him that probably neither of us would say to anyone else. And like in the heat of the moment thing. But but equally, there are things that he would say to me, and if it was anyone else, I would be, but I'm like,
yeah.
Even now, I'm like, oh, I'll be just, and I'll have to say something like, I'm going to go upstairs for a bit. I'm going to give us both a bit of time to calm down, and then we'll usually do making up by WhatsApp, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But one of the things that has come with him as he's recovered is he now does express himself with anger where he didn't for a long time. And like one of the things I've talked about before is that when he was poorly, he was in like total shutdown. I remember he got into an altercation at a group that he went to and nearly got in a fight. It didn't happen, but he nearly got in a fight and there was language. And the leader of the group messaged me and was like, I don't know what's happened tonight, but there's been an altercation with an older member and he like has told them to F off and blah, blah, blah. And it's so unlike him. I was fucking delighted because I was like, yes, we are back in regular nervous system regulation.
Okay, he's getting his fight back.
When he's angry, he's going to let people know that he's angry. Thank fuck. Do you know what I mean? Like I was relieved. So now, like when we have disagreements, I'm just like, thank God that he can be like have that emotional scale. Do you know what I mean? Whereas for a long time he couldn't because he was so shut down.
Yeah. So like I think the thing with that is don't look at how they're communicating.
Yeah.
But look at or try to see what they're communicating, which like, and I have this with Jay. If he's getting really angry, do we need to leave? Are you hungry? Is it too noisy? What is going on here that is causing this? This all behaviour is communication, right?
Kate Jones, who I work with, who's a psychotherapist, and I agree with her on this. She says it's not a case of all behaviour is communication. It's a case of all behaviour is information.
Yes.
Sometimes it's not a clear, I'm telling you this. It's I'm showing you that I'm dysregulated. It's information rather than communication. I find that so helpful because I think sometimes we tie ourselves up in knots trying to work out what our kids are trying to tell us. They're not always trying to tell us something. They're just letting off steam or finding a way to regulate or fighting against their nervous system to get back on kilter. So, but yeah, I think it's really helpful to come at it with that lens of there's some information in this moment, right? There's something to be learned here. There's something I don't know that I'm missing that I need to unpick in this moment.
Yeah, but again, as the parent, we're the ones having to deal with it, right? We're having to shoulder that dysregulation, and we are the punch bag, sometimes literally, but in this context, we're the verbal punching bag, and we're, sworn at, and they say mean things.
And also, I think if you're a person, depending on what your personal history is, for some people, verbal abuse can be more hurtful than physical abuse, particularly if you've got a history of having been verbally abused. So to hear it from your own children can be doubly difficult, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you just made me think of that.
I mean, to be honest, that is like that for me, but that's because I need validation, and I'm needing.
Because you're a delicate little flower.
I'm a delicate flower very often. No, and if I was neurodivergent, I might look into RSD, but I'm not, so I won't.
I'll send you a book.
Thanks.
Stick it on you to read when I finally admit that I'm neurodivergent.
I did a test online, and it was like, nah, you're fine. I think another of the reasons that our kids might swear more prevalently is this diminished capacity for impulse control, particularly amongst ADHDers, I think, where they can't really rein it in very easily. Like, we've all stubbed our toe, right, and started a swear, gone, fudge, or whatever it is your go-to. Fiddlesticks is my parents' go-to. There's all kinds of them, right? Yeah, ridiculous. But everyone's got their go-to sort of safety valve, right? Their off-ramp from the swear when you start a swear. A lot of neurodivergent kids, particularly ADHDs, don't have that.
Nah.
But particularly when they're kids, because I think it's something that, that it evolves when you get older. So, yeah, frustration will lead to swearing.
Yeah. That expression of whatever it is in the moment and just the no filter. And because you're responding to a moment and you haven't got time to process it and put the filter on. It's exhausting to put the filter on.
It's really complicated. If you think about, in terms of the processing, which I'd not really thought about until you just said it. But there's a lot of process going on there. Because you're dealing with physical pain. So initially, then you've got the impulse of how you react to physical pain. And as you said previously, putting your hand in cold water and swearing means that you're likely to endure the pain for longer. So it's actually a healing. It's a healing swear. And then you've got to work out the context of where you are at the time and whether it's acceptable to say that. Is there anyone else around? Am I in a nunnery? All of
Find
that.
the word.
Fine, and then sift through your lexicon of safety valves and go, okay, I'm going to use fiddlesticks.
It's a lot, right? And also,
that's a lot to deal with.
There was something about, in that research about the cold water, it has to be a swear word. It can't be an alternate word. It can't be fiddlesticks. It's got to be fuck.
Why is it?
It's really interesting because it basically turns on different parts of your brain. And the part of your brain that's turned on by those taboo words is not the same part of your brain that's turned on by non-taboo words.
So I'm going to now look at swears from my children as being almost sort of
self-regulatory behaviour.
Yeah.
In the same way that we wouldn't ask our kids not to stim, I would argue we should potentially not ask our kids not to swear.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's a challenge, right? Because,
it is.
and even stimming, you can stim subtly and you can stim wildly, and I think it's about what you were saying earlier on about, I worry about how people will judge my children if they're doing these things in public and how that will be perceived. And I don't want them to be seen that way. It's about us wanting to protect our kids and keep them safe, right? Because we know that other people who see kids running riot in restaurants or swearing or hitting themselves or flapping, people make judgments. And, we're fortunate that we're white and we're articulate and our children probably not at risk of being physically hurt by other people because that happens. But, black and brown children don't have that advantage, particularly in the States. Autistic kids have been shot by police in America for stimming. So it's natural to want to protect our kids from that danger. It is very natural. And although I'm saying just let them swear, I do understand that it's more nuanced than that,
It's finding that balance, isn't it? Of going, it's okay in certain situations, and how do you make that? How do you make them aware of when that is? And
where do you decide what you are okay with other people thinking of your children, and what puts your children at risk if other people think that of them? And it's different for everybody, and it's different in every circumstance, So on some occasions, it doesn't matter if strangers in the park think your kid's weird for climbing up the slide and walking down the steps. but on other occasions, when there are lots of children on those steps trying to get down the slide, there's a chance they're going to get a smack in the face. So it just depends, right? It's just, and it depends is not something that those of us who are neurodivergent find very easy.
That's it, and that's what I feel duty bound to try and equip them for, and why I think, because we've spent a lot of time talking about the nuances of swearing, and we've only just scratched the surface of when it's okay to do it, and all of these different nuances of it we've talked about. And how can you communicate that to a neurodivergent child who isn't going to pick up on some of the things that I pick up on? But then also, that's where you think, well, is that just a problem with me? Like I if I see someone tense up, I'm like, oh, that's awful. He's mortified. If my kids don't pick up on someone tensing up, it doesn't matter, does it? That's a them problem.
Probably not in that moment. It doesn't.
No.
And also,
as in, that's a problem with the person tensing up, and for being appalled by swearing. Everyone should just fucking get over it. I think particularly with PDAers, if you give them sort of some environment where that's okay, and say, this is your safe space to do that with. So you were saying you did that with Theo, right? You can do that here. Then I think they feel, as long as it's not, in response to overwhelm, that's enough for them to be able to kind of express themselves and be off the leash a little bit. And I did this with Jay once, and it was really fun, because I explained to Jay that I don't want him swearing, not because of my objection to it, but because I don't want him swearing in front of the other two because they're younger. And that worked with Jay because he then saw himself as more grown up. He's like, oh, okay, I get it. But we had a gaming night the other night where he came round to my flat, and we had a sleepover and a gaming night. And I was like, okay, here's the deal, right? You can swear as much as you want all night. It's my space and we're gaming, so you're gonna get annoyed at stuff. You can swear as much as you want all night. And he loved it.
God, you're such a good dad. That's brilliant. I love that.
It was really fun. And and he heard me doing it as well, which is quite nice. He didn't go over the top, to be honest. It wasn't over the top, but it was this little space where he could really enjoy it. And then the other day he was like, oh, can we have another gaming night at yours? And I think he just wants to let off some steam again.
You know what's interesting? Like you were saying before about how do you do that? And I was thinking about the setup that we had with Theo's grandmother. So Theo went to his grandmother's every night, overnight on a Thursday from being about 9 months old. And then every other weekend he would see her on a Sunday. So he got lots of practice of like when it was okay to swear and when it wasn't okay to swear. So maybe that's why that worked for us, because he knew on a Thursday the swear button was off and every other weekend the swear button was off. Do you know what I mean? And like even now he doesn't swear around his dad. His dad would freak out and I think that's hilarious because I met his dad when I worked in theatre and live comedy, and I know his dad swears like a navvy.
Okay, yeah.
But his dad doesn't swear in front of Theo, and it would not be okay for Theo to swear in front of his dad. And I think, God, that's so weird. Your dynamic must be so different with our child because me and him swear like crazy.
Yeah.
Like, and I say swear like crazy. It probably isn't that much because it's not like we're not doing it to impress anyone or show off or nothing to prove. We just don't filter.
Yes. Yeah. I had a question about whether we should be policing swearing, which is the sort of umbrella for all of this discussion, right? Is do we try and rein it in? Because one option is no, don't police it. Let them say what they want, when they want, how they want, because it's important information about how they're feeling, and that you're not asking them to filter anything or sort of tamp down their expression to suit your sensitivities. However, that could go very wrong in the future, because you, as a swearer, I also have been around people who swear too much.
Yeah.
And it is a turn off.
Yeah.
Right? It is a bit like like you don't need 4 F words in 7 words.
Yeah.
Like you don't, so it is. And how do I react to that? It makes me think probably less about the person.
Even for me,
rightly or wrongly,
in public and there are leery men effing and jeffing in an environment where there's kids, it pisses me off. I'm like, come on. Do you know what I mean? There's like small children around and you're giving it all that. No.
Yeah.
Be like, there's something there about being respectful. Do you know what I mean? Of the people that are around you and understanding that not everyone wants to hear that. And other parents don't want their kids to hear that, right?
Absolutely. But so if you're a neurodivergent, are you expected to live by those same standards? Are you expected to adhere to those same rules, given that you use the word respectful there, and as we've discussed previously, respectful doesn't really mean anything. If you're neurodivergent, you don't understand how other people are perceiving what respect is. Can you hold them to the same standards as the Sweary builders in McDonald's?
Oh God, yeah, that's a tricky one, because who's to say that those Sweary builders weren't neurodivergent? But
exactly, it's a fucking minefield.
It is a minefield. Here's the thing, right? All things being equal, which they're not, it shouldn't matter. But all things are not equal, so it does matter.
Yes. And
there's something about, I mean, you're definitely asking the wrong person. I've got a social communication disorder, so what the fuck do I know? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
okay.
What I would say is, as someone who didn't know they were neurodivergent until into their 40s, and as someone who learned a lot of those social norms, and I did learn them, because I had to, because that's a survival technique, right? Mm-hmm. What I would say is that for lots of neurodivergent people, it is useful for us, for our own safety, to learn those things. So it's about, are we learning those things for self-protection, or are we learning those things to protect the feelings of other people who need to be more accommodating? And I think that's important too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we don't want to be raising kids who mask all the time, and we want to be able to raise kids who can keep themselves safe. And masking is not just a neurodivergent phenomena. Like, all of us do that in different situations to keep ourselves safe, right? And depending on our level of privilege, that also plays into that too, right? So I think I would do again what I've done with Theo. Like, because I didn't know that I was neurodivergent. I just knew that his nan didn't like swearing.
Yes, so it's having bands of swearing, like different areas that he could, and different swearing dictionaries.
Was because it was important. It was important for him and his relationship with his grandmother that he wasn't a potty mouth around her.
Yeah.
And it was important for him to feel like he could be a potty mouth elsewhere. So that's why I think we had that set up. If it isn't important for your child or young person, then maybe you don't need to worry so much.
I think there needs to be an honourable mention, if we're having an episode on swearing, on the classic PDA salute, which is the middle finger. If you're not familiar with it. If you ever see a family photograph with everyone smiling politely and then one of the children is either surreptitiously got the middle finger and scratching the cheek, right, that's a good one, or is even more brazenly just holding up the middle finger to the camera.
Or two.
Yeah, that is. I think that's part of the diagnostic criteria for PDA. Because it's it seems to be a very much a fuck you attitude to you and your photo. And there's something funny about the hand gesture, isn't there? I think.
People are finding that again, context.
Yeah, exactly. Context. I mean, if you're going to do it to, like a bus full of old people as they go into bingo, then it's not ideal, is it? It's going to be taken badly. But
same like if you're on the back seat of the bus going to school, doing it to cars behind would get us in trouble a lot.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
A phone call, someone followed school bus to school this morning, and you were on the back seat flicking the V, or flicking the bird. In my time, it was two fingers. So again, context matters.
Context, and this is why it's such a minefield when it comes to neurodivergent kids, because context relies on you understanding how other people perceive what's going on, and that's not always naturally picked up by neurodivergent kids.
No.
I think certainly not mine.
And I don't think
so that's why it's such a difficult thing. So if you can create that safe space, right, go, you know what? Middle finger's fine in this household. Just don't do it outside of the house, and maybe just try and rein it in.
Do you think there's something, though, about, like, I know we don't do this, but sometimes I think this would be so much better if instead of trying to guess and work out the context and the dynamic, like, so this is what I do because I'm a grown-up and I'm allowed to do this. I say to people when I'm about to give training, I say, just that, you know, I do swear. I won't swear a lot, but you might hear an F-bomb from me. And if that offends you, then I'm sorry in advance, but fuck you. For example. And then that breaks the ice and then we get on with the training, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be lovely if we could just say to people, can I just check? How do you feel about the word fuck?
Or just give them a list. Can you tick the words that you find okay?
Yeah. You wouldn't want to say to strangers, how do you feel about fucking? Because that would...
That's a whole different thing.
You know, like, wouldn't it be nice to just be able to say to people, please, like those things that you get in hotel doors when you order your breakfast, please tick which of these words you would like me not to say. Please tick which of these words I'm allowed to say. And then you could just get on with just
communicating.
Yeah.
As you haven't really prohibited swearing in your household, you've not had to navigate the crafty workarounds that my kids have.
Go on.
Right. So they know that they're not supposed to use offensive words. And again, it's never been, it's funny. I think we're kind of lucky in that sense that it's not been prevalent enough for me to feel like I have to police it, other than kind of going, let's not say that. That's it, really. It's not a major thing. And it's mainly because it's a mean thing rather than a sweary thing. But Jay started getting quite creative because he's so literal with stuff as well. The other day we were playing Mario Kart and India was losing and moaning about something. And just Jay he went, India, stop being such a whiny little bish.
Bish?
Right. And I was like, what? Hang on. I paused the game. I was like, what did you just say? And he went, I said bish. I didn't say anything wrong. I was like, where do you go as a parent? Where do you go from that? It's like, okay, so technically you didn't say a wrong thing, but we know
what you meant.
And also, like, it's a mean thing, right? Regardless of what you could say, whiny little egg. Do you know what I mean? And that would still be kind of a mean thing to say to your sister, who's obviously started to get a bit dysregulated because she's losing. He found that little workaround, and then his literal brain just went, well, I didn't say the word. I didn't say a rude word. It's like,
I just drop a letter.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a tricky one to navigate. And the other one I had, one of my favourite ones was when Otto was 4, and I still find this hilarious. We were in the car and we'd been for a drive, all of us, and we just came back home and we were talking about the weather and going, it's going to rain tomorrow. And Otto in the background, I just heard him go, fucking rain. Right, he's 4. Right. And I was like, I stopped and I turned around and went, what did you say? And he went, fucking rain. And I was like, hang on. I went, can you spell that for me? And he went, because he was very good at spelling at that age. It was silly now. He went, Fuckun. He went, I made it up, Daddy. It's like, I mean, there's no fucking way you made that up.
I love that.
But then it's like, okay, fine. Just don't use it again because it sounds an awful lot like a really bad word, okay?
Yeah.
Just the little workarounds then.
It's a bloody minefield though, isn't it? It's like, maybe I'm just really lucky. Maybe I've just dropped really lucky by accident.
No, I just think you set the bar really low. No, but by not being offended, you remove that source of having to feel like you're policing it. And early on, fortunately, but you fell upon something that worked in terms of a set of rules that Theo could get on board with and that worked in your context.
Interesting, right? our rules were stricter than the don't ever swear rules. We had like the categories, right? And he would come home and say to me, Mum, this word, what category does that go in? And we would have a conversation about it. So probably...
Can I say twat at Nan's?
Right. Do you think Nan would
No.
I said todger? I don't think Nan would like it if you said todger, Theo. Don't say that.
If in doubt,
what about vagina? No, I don't think she'd like that either. I think you should say front bum. Do you know what I mean? Like,
or just don't even reference it.
You know, what should I call it when?
But it is legitimate. It's a legitimate query from someone who wants to know. It's a legitimate query from someone who's trying to navigate this world where people are offended seemingly for no reason because he's not been told the rules.
I was doing social skills training without realising that's what I was doing.
Yeah, but that's it, isn't it? And that's,
and that's probably... A lot of that is probably down to my anxiety around social situations. So in the same way that you have like anxiety, for want of a better word, around your children swearing, I have anxiety around him using swears in the wrong context. So I set up a system which was rule-based. You do this then, you don't do this then. Same thing. Like, it wasn't like, do what you like whenever you like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I think a blanket ban is never going to work, especially if you've got PDA kids. There's just there's no way. So I think if you can create a scaffold around which certain swears are fine.
So are you going to introduce the swearing trampoline? That's my question.
No, I'm gonna have a swearing room. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Like a panic room. Quick, guys! Someone's really annoying. So quick, guys! Donald Trump's on TV again. To the swearing room.
I love it. Like a those things where you go and you smash stuff up. What are they called?
Yeah, rage rooms.
Rage rooms, like that.
There you go. Like a swear room. Yeah. I love it. It was just like set up a little tent
with a blackboard and like chalk. Great.
Yeah, really just like draw penises, just let it all out, kids. Yeah, we'll never get it.
I have a friend whose ex-partner now got sacked for drawing a cock and balls on a board at work. And he's ADHD. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's... They were looking for a reason.
They were. But like when we're saying about, sometimes it does really matter. It does matter.
Yeah.
Didn't even say it, just drew a cock and balls on a whiteboard in a meeting room.
So, I mean, the thing around swearing, which it's difficult. It's obviously really difficult because people are dealing with it in so many different ways and people are offended by swears in so many different ways. And also people's kids are leaning into swears in so many different ways. All we can do between me and you is have a discussion about how we navigate it and what rules we feel work and what don't and how that makes us feel. I'm aware that other people will have very different views from Neuroshambles listeners. So, take from this conversation what you will. It may not be applicable to you in any way. And if your children are
definitely
really
not a lesson in how to parent around swearing.
No.
Got a bloody clue what we're doing.
No, we're making it up as we go along. And to be honest, I don't very often have to deal with being sworn at. And to be kind of personally abused in a really mean and kind of hurtful way. But to be honest, I think that's a different episode. And it is one that I do want to speak to someone who's better equipped at that and has more experience of that to help other neuroshamblers navigate that, because that's a much more difficult thing to get your head around. So for now, I think we'll just leave the swearing as the words rather than the intent.
Yeah.
It's not all rubbish.
Okay, let's look at the positive side of things now, because there is a positive side of things. I think it is, as you say, swearing can be an outlet. It's an authentic outlet. They are being themselves. They are communicating in the way that they want to communicate. Might not be to everyone's tastes, admittedly, but it can also give us a good indication of their level of overwhelm. Like, I notice immediately when Jay starts getting a bit sweary, which he has done occasionally. He did at the swimming pool the other day. It's like, yeah, this is now time to leave time. It's not like 5 more minutes. It's like, no, this is now the time to leave. So it's good.
Before he calls someone an arsehole.
Yeah. I think it's quite useful in that sense. And I think it's, as I was talking about it as an equalising behaviour, I think that swearing is probably the most palatable of that. Certainly, equalising behaviour can be quite harmful, quite damaging, quite explosive, or just as bad, implosive. So if swearing out loud makes you feel a bit better about the situation that you feel you don't have control in, then that seems to be a very reasonable way of doing it.
Neurodiversity champions.
Okay, neurodiversity champions. Now, these are any people or organisations who are doing wonderful things in the realms of neurodiversity. Have you got any neurodiversity champions for us, Heidi?
Yeah. Now, this is a little bit different, right? Because this is actually someone who is a friend as well, but I want to give her a shout out. So my incredible friend, Lindsay McGlone, who is an Instagram specialist, a burlesque producer, a kind of all-round badass, right? And she's just magnificent. And for the last, we've been friends 10 years. For the last 4 years, maybe even more, I've been saying to her, Lindsay, you are one of ours, you are one of ours, you are one of ours. Lindsay recently adopted the label, finally stepped into the gloriousness of, oh yeah, by the way, I'm autistic.
Okay.
So my shout out is for Lindsay McGlone. If you don't yet follow her, go and find her. She runs an incredible event called Reclaimed Means Business once a year in Sheffield, which is an event where business people and cabaret people come together and learn from each other. It's epic. It's incredible. And so her business kind of like straddles like proper business thinky stuff and strategy and creativity. Like if I tell you that she's running a challenge at the moment, and for her launch, she was in Leeds City Centre yesterday with burlesque performers dressed as cows giving out milkshake for part of her launch, because her thing is, my Instagram brings all the leads to the yard. So they were doing like my milkshake brings. So then she got a milkshake company to send her like 60 cases of free milkshake, and she was in Leeds City Centre giving them out yesterday with people dressed as cows. She's a genius. And this is someone that never thought she was neurodivergent.
Okay.
So my shout out is for her for finally stepping into her glorious neurodivergent fabulousness and owning it, and for all the amazing things that she does, and also for just being an incredible friend and one of my best supporters. So
awesome. Thank you. So you give me a link in the show notes and we'll put it in there.
Her event is in October, and I'm speaking at the event. It's on the 9th of October.
Nice. Dressed as a cow?
No. I will not be dressed as a cow on this occasion.
Tiny epic wins!
Okay, tiny epic wins. Now, these are the moments that for a neurotypical family wouldn't be any great deal, but in our neuroshambolic families, they are epic wins. Do you have any tiny epic wins for us, Heidi?
God, so many. I guess the biggest one for us currently is that Theo has just done a stint volunteering with a local forest school. One of our neighbours runs a forest school. And on the back of that, had the idea that he would run some extra forest play sessions for SEND kids.
Oh, cool.
And like that feels like monumental. Like for him, like having been from where I think about where he was 5 years ago to now, him like saying, oh, I'd like to run some forest play sessions for SEND kids. But also the reason this feels like such a win is because he is having conversations with parents in that forest play setting about their kids and gently opening conversations with them about, oh, by the way, this might help. Do you know what I mean? And that feels like things have come full circle. So
that's amazing.
It feels lovely that he has really stepped into that and can, like, he's got it, like, it's a job, but more than that, like, the thing he's doing feels like massive. Talking to other people, like, is big. Talking to parents is big. Talking to parents about neurodivergence is big. You know what I mean? So that feels like
that's wonderful. That's amazing. Yeah. I've got a tiny epic win as well. And again, sort of speaking to, looking to Theo, and you were saying like looking back 5 years, how would you have even imagined that this would be possible? I have a similar thing with Jay, but just going back a year, in that we were navigating back to school, you know, in the various different, we've had a really nice, fun summer. Everyone's been on really good form and really relaxed into themselves, and it's been really fun. And obviously I'm sort of nervous about the return to school. And I did ask Jay, you know, a few days before we went back, I was like, how do you feel about it? And he went, oh, I'm actually quite looking forward to it. And I was like,
wow,
what? This is the kid that was, you know, fuck you for sending me that fucking shithole kid, right? A year later, less than a year later, now he was like, I'm looking forward to seeing my friend there. And that, like, to me is an epic win. You know, this is the child who a year ago, when we talked about going into school, was so dysregulated that he took a knife to our air tent. I don't know if you heard that episode.
Yeah, I did.
You know, like, they was so triggered by the concept of school that it was explosive and it was aggressive and it was kind of scary. And now he's in a place, and this school have been amazing to allow him this space to flourish. And now he's looking forward to going back in. And that's just like, that's a huge win.
Yeah, it's massive.
And I would say, actually, that just sort of tying this into the swearing thing, because I didn't actually mention this earlier, they let him get away with swearing at teachers in the like early on. Like, his teacher would phone and say, yeah, he swore quite a lot at me today, and but it was okay. She was like, very like, we're fine with that. We understand where it's from. But I just think if he was in mainstream, he'd have been suspended in the first week, no question. And where would that have taken him? But because he's in this specialist setting that is hugely neurodivergent friendly, and understand where this comes from and where the swearing comes from, and that it's actually just a means of communication, and to not have escalated that is now got to the point where he's happy to go into school, which I never thought I'd say.
Removes that barrier, right?
Yeah.
Like, Theo was at a PRU, same thing. Like, just language was just never a thing. Like, aggressive, attacking language to members of staff, not okay. But the way they handled it was very different to what you would handle it in a mainstream. But yeah, part of regular vocabulary, swearing, no big deal. Oh, I'm excited that he's excited. That's brilliant.
What the flip?
Okay, let's do some what the flip moments now. These are the moments that our children will say or do something that completely confounds us and leaves us scratching our heads as to how to respond. I regularly get these. Do you have any for us, Heidi?
I mean, he gives me loads all the time. But recently we had a conversation where I was talking to him about the fact that, so I've stopped drinking. I'm like coming up 2 years sober now, but, you know, haven't made any secret of the fact that pretty much for his whole childhood and adolescence, I was a fully functioning, high functioning alcoholic. And I said to him the other day, you know, I do feel really bad about it, you know, and I'm really sorry about it. And he was like, it's all right, Mum. You have paid for my therapy.
Nice. Swings and roundabouts. Nice.
Oh, bless his heart. Yeah. So there was that. I'm sure you've got tons. You always have loads.
I've got a few. Well, again, on the issue of swearing, was Jay. This is when he doesn't swear very often to me, but and it's only really when he's annoyed about something. But I just like burst into my room at one point and just went, "This internet is fuck." This internet is fuck.
No ED on the end.
No, this internet is fuck. And I'm like, do I correct him? How did, like, is he going to say, well, like, firstly, I acknowledge the fact that the internet is slow, right? But it's not fuck. It is fucked. Let's get it right. If you're going to swear, let's lean into it and get it right. I should have corrected him. I think I probably would do that now.
Grammatically, though, like, so he was using fuck as a proper noun, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Which makes no sense. And so I just it's like, okay, I'll restart the router. That's it. It's like, fine. Just let that go. Another one I had recently was where he asked me to buy a video game for him, and I just bought one like the week before, and I went, I'm not made of money. And his response was, if you were made of money, you'd be paying with your own body parts. Like, yeah, yes, I would. Yes. Thank you for the observation.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, I want to tell you.
You got another one? Yes.
So he sent me a video on TikTok this morning, and it was a thing that said about horses.
Mm-hmm.
And it said that the reason that women being topless in public is considered like taboo is because horses have a reflex response to breasts, whereby if you flash your breasts at them, they think they're big, scary eyes and they bolt.
Is that true?
I don't know, but there was a video of a woman flashing these horses. We've got horses in the field behind us.
Yeah.
He sent me a message on TikTok saying, I need to know if this is true, Mum. Please could you go out back and flash the horses?
I love it.
I am not going in my garden and flashing my tits at the horses in the field behind the house.
Because you can't win. Because if they run away, it's not great for the self-esteem, is it? I caused a stampede by flashing some horses.
I can't do it. You're going to have to do it. I need to know if this is true. I do kind of need to know, though.
For research.
I'm going to have to do it.
If any Neuroshambles listeners want to help put Heidi's mind at rest with any anecdotal evidence of this being true or not, then please let us know. Yeah. Actually, this is quite a good time for me to say that if you do want to email some what the flip moments so that we can include them in this, or any neurodiversity champions or any tiny epic wins, what I want to do is sort of open this up a little bit more to Neuroshambles listeners and make this a little bit more community based and give you the opportunity to kind of have your stuff read out as well, because also it saves me having to scrape the barrel for some of my anecdotes. So yeah, if you've got any neurodiversity champions that you want us to give a shout out to, or if you have any what the flip moments or any tiny epic wins, then please feel free to email me at hello@neuroshambles.com, and I will read it out in the relevant section. And it'd be really good to kind of get a few more people's voices involved in this, because God knows you're sick of hearing me banging on about things.
Nah.
That is it for this episode of Neuroshambles. Thank you so much for rejoining me for season 3. We've got a lot more exciting episodes planned, so please stay tuned for that. If you want to email me, it's hello@neuroshambles.com. You can also follow us on TikTok or Facebook or Instagram or Threads. Thank you again, Heidi, for coming back and regaling me with your sweary anecdotes.
Thanks for having me. Good luck with the edit.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be swearing more, I'm sure. So that is it for this episode. All that remains for me to say now is have a nice life.